It's the On Stage podcast with Chris Ruppert. Well, we got an exciting morning. We have Julie Bale. I'm so glad you're here, Julie. We haven't talked in a while, and you're looking fabulous.
Thank
Excellent.
you.
I love the background. I hope it's a real background and not a
It
virtual one.
is. Mm-hmm.
My goodness, you would have disappointed me. No, just so, Julie, we've to let the audience know, everyone, this is Julie Bale. She's a soprano, and as you see, a hypnotherapist. Julie, can you give us a little bit of a backstory of who you are and why are you a soprano? Why did you get into musicians? Sorry, why did you become a musician? And what is it with hypnotherapy? Why?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for having me join you again. Anyway, it's really lovely to be chatting with you again, Chris. So
Thank you.
I think like any musician, I suspect that any musician would say to you that they don't really choose music. Music sort of chooses them. You know, you have this, and I speak so often to singers and all kinds of musicians who say that they tend at some point in their life to have this epiphany. You know, it's a feeling. You're doing a performance, and it could be in a school performance or, you know, something really, really early. For me, I was aged 2. And I just you just know that music is the thing and it's what you want to do, and it just makes you feel fantastic to be alive. And so that's where it started for me. Age 2, I would be stopping people in the streets and asking them to listen to me sing Engelbert Humperdinck songs, which I probably only knew a few lines of. And in my head, I had absolutely no idea that these people might not want to listen to me because I loved it so much. I thought they would love it so much. And so it carried on. It was a feeling. I felt amazing when I sang. The exhilaration that you get after a musical performance was just so brilliant, and that carried on all the way through my school years, and just carried on really. I got a music degree and started singing professionally. I sang in opera and oratorio. I still sing in opera and oratorio, and that was the point when I became a professional singer. And it certainly doesn't matter whether you are professional or not, whatever aspect of singing that you do, there seems to come a point for singers where it starts to feel scary to sing. And I had done a lot of work. I'm a real great technician. I absolutely believe in having the best possible vocal technique that you can have. I want to know how the voice works. I'm fascinated by it. But what I didn't have was the mindset to go out and be completely and utterly confident on stage anymore, like I had when I was 2. And I hear this from lots of singers over the last couple of months. I've spent a lot of time researching with singers. I've asked around 100 singers about what it is, what are their struggles, what are their fears, what are their dreams. And many musicians have this point where they start with music and music is their life and they can do nothing else. You know, it's music is it's everything to them. But at some point there comes this fear, and the fear either manifests itself as performance anxiety and or self-doubt, this thing that we call imposter syndrome, feeling like a fraud when you're singing. And this is stopping singers. Added in as well, I need to add in as well this there's this thing about fear of judgment and criticism from other singers, from audiences, from panels. So all of that together is stopping singers being able to achieve what they really want to do, which is, like me when I was 2, go out there and sing and be free and fearless and love it Instead, there are things that are stopping them, that are making them feel bad about them, singing about themselves, to the extent that they procrastinate about whether they're going to sing, that they spend a lot of time in anxiety about what will happen if it goes wrong, and all this kind of thing. So hypnotherapy then came out of that. I've tried so many things. I've tried working harder in order to not get the nerves. I've tried just, crossing my fingers and hoping it won't come this time. And sometimes it doesn't, because it's not, an everyday occurrence. But there was really nothing that I found that was going to really reassure me that when I started to sing, I'd be able to sing without suddenly the nerves taking me, suddenly finding I've got a shaky leg, or my voice is wobbling, or my head is filled with chaotic thoughts, or my heart is beating like it's going to come out of my chest, all of that stuff. But then I discovered some hypnotherapy exercises, and I was so mind blown by them that I decided this is what I want to do. I want to train as a hypnotherapist, and I want to be able to help other singers to relieve all of that. So that's what I've been doing. I set up this particular business 8 months ago in July of 2022. And since then, I've been working with singers and helping them to just feel fantastic when they perform and get rid of all this stuff, so that they can get on with the thing that they want to do, which is singing.
Let's go back to when you're talking about performance anxiety. I don't know, many tenors, soprano singers themselves, I'm not sure if it's true that you have more performance anxiety, the amount of audience members there are. But how do sopranos, tenors, and other musicians benefit from hypnotherapy? Especially, how would you do hypnotherapy on yourself?
Yeah, so self-hypnosis is absolutely the thing. When there's no where to start really. It's all about the mind, and people think with hypnotherapy that hypnotherapy is about mind control, and they worry. There are so many myths and misconceptions about hypnotherapy, and they worry that what's going to happen is that the hypnotist is going to come and take charge of their mind and make them do things they don't want to do. So that is a myth. That is something that's been bandied around and to great extent by stage hypnotists whose main purpose is to entertain. We want some entertainment. We want to believe in magic, that kind of thing. When we're using hypnosis in a therapeutic environment, so with this, what happens is we're actually retraining or reprogramming the mind. So what a lot of people don't realize is that we are in charge of our thoughts. So at that point, when we're about to go on stage, my thoughts used to be, I'm going to walk out, I'm going to trip on my dress, I'm going to fall on my face, the audience is going to laugh, I'm not going to be able to sing.
You're going to fall off the stage like many of the rock stars do.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, sometimes they do it on purpose, don't they? But this
just for a joke. Life of the party. Julie Bale, life of the party.
Surfing is a great thing. Yeah. But that, would have led to humiliation and all the rest of it. But that was a track that was playing around time and time again in my mind. So with hypnotherapy, what we do is we swap it for a better track. So instead of those thoughts going through my mind, I choose and practice the thoughts going through my mind that everything's going to go absolutely brilliantly. I'm going to sail out looking like a swan. I'm going to open my mouth and only amazing things will come out. The audience are going to sit aghast. And by changing that changes how you feel about the performance as well. And the more you practice it, there's lots of scientific evidence that says that actually the brain doesn't know if something is real or if you're thinking it. So if you practice thinking the successful outcome again and again and again, then when you get into the real situation and you walk out on stage, your brain goes, oh yeah, I know this, and takes you, you know, all the feelings you get then are the feelings of freedom and fearlessness and security, which is what you want, rather than the, oh no, something's going to go wrong, I can't do this, it's going to be terrible, which is going to lead to tension in the body, because obviously the mind and the body are very connected as well. And that's the work that we do with hypnotherapy, just sort of retraining and reprogramming so that we can get down and do the business of singing.
Sometimes I sit down there and I breathe in and out, and that helps. Do you suggest that singers do that as well to prevent performance anxiety, is to go up on stage and do a little breathing exercise, remove all the stress, and then they're able to do their job?
Yes, absolutely. So the breathing comes right at the beginning of our work. So scientifically, the evidence is that if you slow breathing, if you breathe, and it's particularly the out breath, slower, what happens is then you engage the vagus nerve, which is part of the parasympathetic nervous system. So the rest and digest part of the nervous system. So, you know, performance anxiety and the stress response is caused by the fight, flight, freeze. You know, that's what it's called, the fight, flight, or freeze. And that's where we go to when we notice that something is dangerous. So in our brain, this primal response, we're going to be eaten by a saber-toothed tiger, obviously not that. But now, what if the audience hates us? What if something terrible happens? What if I'll never work again? You know, all of those kinds of things. We have this learned response to a performance, and it is a learned response because I didn't have it when I was 2. You know, is that we've learned this response to danger, which sets off the fight or flight. And that stress response leads to rapid breathing, raised heart rate, sweaty palms, chaotic thoughts, all of those things that we want to get rid of. The opposite to that is engaging the vagus nerve and engaging the parasympathetic nervous system, which is done just as you said, by breathing slowly, but breathing out slowly. So what I do with my singers is I give them a 2-minute routine to do before they go on stage. So usually for singers, it's the 2 minutes before they go on stage where all the madness happens, where all the chaos starts, where the monkeys start playing cymbals in your head, you know, all that stuff. So instead, we go through a process that I'm sure you've done exactly the same thing, of progressive relaxation. So you'll start with the breath and you'll breathe slowly, slowly, slowly out. So as you breathe in, you breathe out slower. And you continue like that. And we use visual things like imagining that the breath is the breath of relaxation, and imagine that that has a color and all of that kind of thing. And then we would also imagine something like a Star Trek scan coming down from the top of your head all the way down to your feet. And as it comes down, it notices any areas of tension in the muscles and releases them. So in that 2 minutes, instead of allowing your thoughts to go to a chaos place, you're actually taking yourself to a calm place. And as you've said, scientifically, that will reduce your heart rate, reduce your blood pressure thereby, and will take you to a place of rest and digest. So start to work against the stress response, the fight or flight.
That's
so
very
yes is the answer.
In the long form. I love that part with the fight or flight. I love it. So we have this scenario. Now you imagine a performer such as maybe a tenor suffering from insomnia.
Yeah.
May question whether anything can help them, and then along comes Julie. So how would you help them or her?
I mean, I have worked with a lot of singers with regards to insomnia, because hypnotherapy has a huge evidence base for helping with sleep issues. And the reason for that is because when we go into what I call the hypnotic mindset, and I probably ought to just say a word about trance at this point. So the majority of people who fear hypnotherapy do so because they're afraid of being put in a trance. And they think of the trance as being like zombies walking around, that kind of thing, and being controlled by the hypnotist. But the trance is actually, what it really is an everyday state. So it's a state of total absorption, and we have all experienced it, and we all experience it every day. So if you've ever watched a film, and to the extent that you've forgotten that the world exists on the outside of the film, suddenly it's like, oh, jolted back into the real world, the film is finished. Same thing with reading a book. And for those of us who are musicians, when you're really focused in your music, when you're really absorbed in the music, then you've sort of forgotten that the world exists outside of that. That's the joy, isn't it? We're transported away from reality. That is the trance state, what I call the hypnotic mindset. And that place, when you are there, when you are just completely absorbed in one thing, focused entirely on one thing, then the mind and the body is in a relaxed state, and a state that is very close to what we call the hypnagogic state, which is the place between awake and sleep. So that's why it's then very easy to then, when we're in the hypnagogic state, to then just add suggestions to the brain of relaxation, of becoming more and more relaxed, of feeling heavier, that kind of thing, which will then take someone into a state of sleep. So there are really straightforward hypnosis sessions that can make a huge difference. I had one singer came to me. She had a chronic sleep difficulty. She had many years ago, like 20 or 30 years ago, a sick child. And we all know what it's like, being a parent. You've always got half an ear open during the night in case your child needs you. But she particularly had a sick child, and so was on constant alert, and only ever slept in the region of 2 hours a week. 2 hours a week, 2 hours a night. 2 hours a night.
Wow.
Yeah, awful, because she was. And then, of course, the child grew up and left home, but the sleep issue remained. She never got back to sleep. And she came and we did some exercises, some of these sleep exercises. And the next week she sent me a message saying, I've slept through 3 nights in a row. This has not happened for 30 years.
Wow.
And every time I see her now, I know. And every time I see her now, and I see her often at singing events that we're both taking part in, and she always says to me, still working. And it's just, again, she's reprogrammed her brain. She's reprogrammed that computer. And now she can take herself to a state, the hypnagogic state, where she can then just allow herself to go into sleep. So, magical effects for people who haven't slept in 30 years.
Wow, haven't slept in 30 years. It must have been like really quite a mess. Like I can imagine if I don't get sleep, I think I was up many times in the night because my cat wanted to eat at 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, and I couldn't get to sleep at all. And then I had to be up at work at 6, and I finally was able to get to sleep around 5, and I had an hour of sleep. And by the time I'm at my desk, I'm sleeping. Would you consider your voice a fight or flight?
Both. Depends on what I'm singing, you know. If I'm singing something really quite strong, I want a fighting voice, and if I
Yeah,
want to be ethereal and beautiful, then I'll have a flight voice.
that's that's interesting. Now, Julie, we know that there's a difference between hypnotherapy and hypnotism. I know there are famous hypnotists like the amazing Kreskin, Franz Mesmer, Paul McKenna, Deirdre Barrett, who's a Harvard hypnotherapist, just like you, are famous for getting their audience to obey a suggestion. Isn't using hypnotherapy the same type of suggestive influence? Example, you will not smoke, and they don't smoke. Or
Yeah,
is it
I
long?
think
Is it
there's
more long-winded than that?
yeah, I think there's a lot in that. Firstly, um, yeah, firstly, there is so hypnosis is the thing that we use, and hypnosis can be used in a therapeutic context, so i.e., to help people with issues, which is then hypnotherapy, or it can be used as an entertainment, which is then, you know, the stage hypnotist's work, the kind of Paul McKenna work, that kind of stuff, which is fantastic, um, and great fun, but it's not. It doesn't have a therapeutic solution, and those people. So here's the thing: those people who are on the stage with the stage hypnotists have all agreed and are signed up to do whatever it is the hypnotist wants. Now, the same thing happens with me, but we make our collaboration for a therapeutic basis, and we choose our tasks and goals together. So there's never anything that is sinister or that can happen unless the hypnotic subject wants it to happen. Okay, I think that's sort of the difference, isn't it? So the thing with the smoking, lots of it, I have to admit, I used hypnosis to stop smoking myself 25 years ago. I went to a hypnotherapist to stop smoking, and we decided between us that that was the goal. And so we would go into the hypnotic state, and then the suggestion was made that you are no longer a smoker. It's probably, it depends on the person. If you use something as direct as you will not smoke, for some people that might be the right suggestion for them. And for others, unfortunately for me, if someone says to me, you will not smoke, then my personality would say, I will if I want to. You know, so it all depends on the person. For me, it would be a much better suggestion for me, and I'm sure for lots of people, would be you find that you no longer require cigarettes once you are out of this session. You know, that kind of thing, putting that suggestion into the mind rather than a direct command, which, yeah, it works for some people, but you have to, that's the thing about you know, being the hypnotherapist. You have to find out about the subject and discover what is going to work the best for your client. Yeah, direct might, but probably not, I would say.
Hmm. 'Cause I remember this movie once. It was called Jabberwocky, and what happened is that it was a basketball movie. It was like high school basketball team, and one of the members, who's over 6 feet tall, would make a great basketball player. Wasn't doing very well, so he went to be hypnotized, and he said, "If we say the name Jabberwocky, you'll be the best basketball player ever." And nobody knew that, but every time that he was playing basketball, he would be kind of like nerdy and missing the basket, and he'd go Jabberwocky, and he'd go boom, 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 and he'd get them in all the time. And then the final game, they were losing. The other team, the team was losing, and it's a Jabberwocky. He started playing, and everyone in the audience was going Jabberwocky, Jabberwocky, Jabberwocky throughout the whole game, and they won. How true is that? Is that a possibility that you can say you're going to be the best singer tonight because you weren't really that good yesterday? Would hypnotherapy help them with that, or is that sort of like a fantasy?
There's truth in it. There's absolutely truth in it. One of the exercises that I do right at the very beginning, actually before pretty much the first thing that we ever do, is I do an exercise with singers where I take them onto a visualization where they visualize themselves picking up and eating a lemon. And in much more detail than that, you engage all the senses, and it's much more detail. But what happens is that by being completely focused and absorbed in the idea of eating a lemon, then what happens is and you can see with me already, because I have set a trigger, which is what Jabberwocky is. What happens is now when I think of a lemon or I say the word lemon, I salivate. And you think, what?
And you can then eat a lemon without getting the sour, right?
No.
I've
I would
seen-
never eat a lemon. I wouldn't eat a lemon. But what it does is the imagination of me saying lemons releases saliva. And that is really good for a singer, because one of the stress response symptoms is dry mouth. So quite often singers stand when they get nervous, the mouth goes dry. And so we use lemons for that. So now we've got it to the stage where when we just say to ourselves the word lemons, so like the word Jabberwocky, we will have that release. And that's called an idiosensory response. So
ISR,
by
that's
having,
interesting.
yeah,
ISR,
exactly.
wow.
An ISR, an idiosensory response. So that's happened. Now you can also, with hypnosis, create, because the mind and body are so connected, you can also create an idiomotor response. So which can allow your body to do things. You can relax your body just by thinking it. We can do all kinds of things with our body, can't we, just by using a thought. So with Jabberwocky, I would imagine that what has happened is that all of his inhibitions have been released. So it's definitely a mindset thing. So the mind, by saying that word, he has allowed himself to become his ideal basketball player. Okay. It cannot give you more technique than you have. How can it? It can't. That's magic. It can't make you amazing unless you've done the work, but it can take the inhibitions away. It can allow you to be free. It can give you calmness, or you can change your emotions around how you perform in a sports sense, or in or in a musical sense. I know that the sports people, what they do a number of things with hypnotherapy. One of them is normalizing. Normalizing is great, isn't it? Because if they imagine, instead of it being a pressured event where it's so important that they get the ball through the hoop, if they have got a mindset of normalizing, it's just every day and I'm just playing just like I did in the practice, then they don't have the pressure on them. And the other thing they do is they use a visualization thing where they imagine that the hoop is probably 5 times as big. So when they throw the ball, it's so big that the ball's going to go through. And those that's a mindset thing. Again, it's not really like that, but because they believe that it is, it's taken away all of the panic, all of the pressure, all of the fear. That's what hypnotherapy can do.
Is there any way that autosensory meridian response ASMR is sort of the same thing? I don't know if you're familiar with that. I guess ISR would probably be more with the mind, I think. How would you Differentiate.
I haven't come across that term that you were talking about there, but
ASMR.
from what you describe, it sounds very much like it is engaging all of the senses. So it's and again, we definitely absolutely want to do that in hypnotherapy, so to really be somewhere so that we can experience it with all our senses, so we can experience touch and taste and sound and all of the senses, helps you to be transported to actually really engage with the imagination. So yeah, it sounds very similar.
Okay, so I'll give you two more scenarios. So you have someone you grab off the street and you hypnotize them and you have them, okay, you're going to watch Luciano Pavarotti and you're going to listen to them sing. And then as soon as someone says opera singer and they snap my fingers, you're going to sing like Luciano Pavarotti. The second one is a tenor who's been practicing for years and you do the same thing with him. Who is more prone to sing more like at Luciano Pavarotti? The one you grab off the street and tell and hypnotize, or the one who's already sung?
Well, absolutely. I mean, it depends who you grab off the street. If you've grabbed Jonas Kaufman off the street, then you're okay. But if if it's just your regular person who's never sung opera, what hypnosis does not do is it does not fill you with skill. It's just a mindset thing. It changes your mind towards things to allow you to be more open or to allow you to be more yourself. So the tenor who I'd grabbed off the street, by watching Pavarotti and then by creating a belief within himself that he will sing as well as Pavarotti would sing, would fare well, because he would no longer be thinking about his own anxieties. What are people thinking about me? What do they think of my voice? What if I'm not as good as that? What if they're judging me? What if I get nervous? All of those things. Because if you're just saying, and now you are Pavarotti, by the way, I would not do this. Just so you know, I would not do this. But as a hypothetical question, the person who has the skill but just needs the mindset changing would be more successful, in my opinion.
That's very interesting. So hypnotist and hypnotherapist Erica Fromm once said, hypnosis is a human condition involving focused attention, reduced peripheral awareness. Can you explain that? What exactly is reduced peripheral awareness?
Yeah, so this is the reading a book, watching a film thing. So when you are watching a film, I don't know, what is your favorite film, Chris?
My favorite film?
Yeah.
Well, my favorite action film is John Travolta's Face Off, and my favorite drama film was like Notting Hill and something maybe like Titanic.
Okay, great. So you're watching one of those films. It doesn't matter which one. Say you're watching Titanic, and it's a very long film, and you get really pulled into it, and you're thinking like the rest of us, surely there's room for two on there, and all of that thing. You had no need to die. There's enough room. What's wrong with you, woman? Move over. All of those things you're thinking, and then the film comes to an end, and suddenly you go, oh wow, I'm sitting in my living room and those people are not with me anymore, and there's this sort of sense of loss. So that's the peripheral focus. You have been so focused in that world that you have forgotten that the rest of the world exists. And it is a brilliant definition of hypnosis, because in hypnosis we focus our attention, we engage our imagination to get rid of, that sometimes we do situations where there is the situation we don't want, then the situation we do want, and then we focus on that. It's like what we call a worst case scenario. If people are worried about an audition, for instance, we might take them imaginatively by engaging all of their senses. So imagining that they are in that place, that they can see what they see, hear what they hear, taste what they taste, feel what they feel, smell what they smell. And they go through the whole of the audition process with everything going wrong, imagining everything going wrong, and it's awful. And then we just wipe it out, draw a line, and go through it with everything going right. And the purpose of that task is so that the things that go wrong, their brain starts thinking, oh, well, if this goes wrong, I could do that to help it, and I could do that. And maybe if I didn't do this, then that might not go wrong. And then the thing that's going right, they have this wonderful feeling and rehearsal of everything going right and understand what they need to do to get that right in this really focused place. So just like when it finishes, when the hypnosis finishes, they're like, oh, I'm in a different room and it's not that day. And those kinds of things. This is the same thing. It's the same thing as watching a film.
But is it possible that you could hypnotize yourself to the point where you believe you're a certain character, you believe you can connect with all the women, you believe that you're a walking Hallmark movie? Is it possible to hypnotize yourself? I should have asked that question. And you don't know it?
It's possible to hypnotize yourself. That is absolutely what I teach, because I want singers to be able to know and learn and have the skills for themselves so that they can go and use them in performances and auditions. What you said at the end there, is it possible to hypnotize yourself and not know it? No, that's not possible. You are in charge of your brain. It's not possible for someone else to hypnotize you and you not know it. That's just part of the misconceptions. That's just part of the sort of magical thinking that stage hypnotists want to promote. But it's not real. Sorry to tell you this. It's not real.
But where does hypnotherapy and hypnotism stop? I mean, like with hypnotherapy, what you do, you help people also, well, taking them off that they don't smoke anymore. But isn't that just a choice? Like, I smoke because I want to. You can't really, unless they're willing to go. Like with me, I was a smoker when I was 11, and I quit when I became 20. But it was just cold turkey. I just stopped smoking. But why are some people so hooked that they spend years smoke like a smokestack, like Betty Davis, for instance? No, where does hypnotherapy begin and where does hypnotism stop? That they intertwine, that they become the same thing. So, can you call yourself hypnotist for performance, or hypnotism for performance, or no?
Yes, because I am a hypnotist.
Okay.
That is what I do. I am a hypnotist, and I use hypnosis, which is the thing, in a therapeutic context, to help people, rather than just for entertainment, which is what the stage hypnotists use. They use the awesomeness of our minds, these amazing things that we can get our minds to do, for entertainment. That's a stage hypnotist. Yeah. They're still using hypnosis. That's the thing. Using the model hypnosis, the getting the mind into this absorbed, focused, hypnagogic state. That's hypnosis. Then they would use that for entertainment, using our amazing minds. I use it to help people to get rid of stress and anxiety, for confidence problems, for sleep, to stop caring about other people's criticism and judgment, to change the mind, to lift the fog, all of those kinds of things. So that's the difference.
So, Kevin Stone, I don't know if you heard of him. He's a master hypnotist and a board certified hypnotherapist, and he is recognized as a number one global expert and authority on hypnosis, as well as America's most trusted and awarded hypnotist. I see, Julie, that he's not only a hypnotherapist but also a hypnotist. What would be more important for him to make the pornography addiction go away, or the insomnia, as we discussed before? Would hypnotherapy be good for the pornography addiction or hypnotism, or is the same thing like we discussed? I guess.
Um, uh, it,
Are you familiar with Kevin Stone?
no, but there are many of us.
Yeah.
There are many hypnotherapists. No,
Should
I
I
don't.
rephrase the question?
No, you're asking me whether.
For
Are you
pornography
asking me
addiction,
about
what
a
would you use?
person?
Mhm.
So if a person had those two things,
No, we
which
discussed before about how you would use hypnotherapy for someone who has like insomnia, but
yeah.
could you use the same thing on someone who has a pornography addiction?
Yes, is the answer. I mean, obviously, I wouldn't, because I just work with singers on singing things. Pornography, it's an addiction, and if it's an addiction, then that means that there is something in your brain that needs that you want to stop. So if someone came with an addiction, firstly, they would have to come to a hypnotherapist. They would have to want to stop it. Yeah, because there are lots of other ways of dealing with addiction, aren't there? I mean, I would imagine that going to a GP would be a first sort of port of call. For a pornography addiction, nobody's ever asked me this question before.
Well,
Yeah,
you talk to many singers and musicians,
yeah.
and you don't know what they're hiding.
No, and you're absolutely right. I'm not saying that they don't have it. I'm just saying that I haven't been asked it before. But I think that with any therapy, in any therapeutic situation, it's got to be a case of finding out, first of all, the root cause. So why it's become an addiction, and what they would want to achieve instead. So finding out what the final outcome would be. So where they are now, where they want to be, and then just figuring out ways that would work for them in a therapeutic context to take them to where they want to be. And that's sort of the path that you would use. Whether you would do insomnia or pornography, I don't know. I mean, probably both. Maybe one leads to the other, I suppose. If you're awake all night and you want something to do, I don't know. Maybe it's part of the issue is that this person isn't sleeping. So it's quite complex. You would need to discuss all the things that are going on that have created it, and figure out what needs to be alleviated to get rid of this addiction. Because an addiction is an addiction. So, or addictions you would treat the same, but every person is different. So there would be a different treatment plan for every person. I don't know if that answers your question.
It's a great answer. I'm thinking that because pornography may be addiction, but insomnia is not an addiction, but insomnia can be caused by your addiction.
Yeah.
So are you going to try to find out the root cause, or are you going to try to just heal the symptom? I mean, like if a singer comes in and says, I haven't slept in a week, your hypnotherapy didn't really help me that much. Do you consider yourself a failure, or do you have a backup plan?
Well, I would, if I know that I have explored all of the options, because we always have, whenever I do any work with any singer individually, we have a very rigorous pre-assessment. I have a pre-assessment form that they fill in, which is quite long, so I can get a snapshot of where they're at, and then we talk exactly about what the issues are right now, and again, what they would like to achieve and what's causing that and what they believe is causing that. And then from that, that's the skill of the hypnotherapist, is being able to pull out of that all the different possible remedies and trying them. So yes, of course, if someone came for insomnia and they hadn't had success with that particular tool, we would discuss what was happening. We would just discuss if there had been any changes, if there was something else that had been going on in their lives that might cause the insomnia, might exacerbate the insomnia. And then we might try a different task, because there are lots of different ways of getting there, in hypnosis. There are lots of different types of exercises that you can use. And there's always an answer. We can always find something else. For me, the good thing is that they've come back. You said they've come back and they've said it hasn't worked. So I'm like, okay, so they still trust me and they still want to work with me. So let's find a solution. If they don't, it hasn't worked, not going there again, then that's the end, isn't it? But if they've come back, then we can search towards finding a solution that will work for them. And it might not be first time, it might be that they haven't been practicing the task in between, they haven't worked with the audio that I've given them, or they haven't been practicing their self-hypnosis. And we need to find out absolutely. Root cause is always the way to go.
You don't want to toss around some well-known musicians you've helped gain control of their lives, do you? Or is that
I don't.
Okay. I thought.
So, and let me tell you why. Because I'm bound by confidentiality. So,
That's what I thought.
so just like with the doctor, it's really important, if people are entering into a therapeutic context, that they're aware that everything is confidential, so they can be as open as possible. That way they know they can come in, nobody's going to find out. Some singers, I have worked with a lot of well-known singers, but they, on the whole, would rather people didn't know they've been doing this work for whatever reason. And so, no, there are some singers who want to shout it from the rooftops because they're so thrilled at the results they've got, but that's up to them. But me, I'm not allowed to, for my professional organization. I wouldn't get my insurance if I started bandying names around.
Are they on, like, if you had Jack Sprat or Jumpin' Jack Flash as a client, are they returning client? Or are they just they come in and are out and that's done? Do they come back to you many times?
So this is the beauty of hypnotherapy. So unlike with other therapies where it can be an extended amount of time that you're expected to be in therapy, so your psychotherapy, for instance, you can be in for years and years and years. With hypnotherapy, we normally recommend for an issue, so for insomnia, for instance, if we were talking about insomnia or performance anxiety or imposter syndrome, self-confidence, that kind of thing, the normal number of sessions that is required is 4. So I do a package of 4 with a follow-up a month after, and that tends to be pretty much what everybody needs. They don't tend to need any more than that, which is fantastic, isn't it? That you can do just a short period of therapy and have the tools that you need to deal with your issue yourself. I don't only do one-to-one sessions, though. I am doing a couple of courses now, which I'm doing a course with a casting book company in the UK called Audition Oracle, where all all the singers who work professionally tend to have a profile. I'm sure you must have some equivalent things. They all have a profile on here. And then casting agents, opera companies, that kind of thing. They come in, they post auditions on there. They also look for singers while they're there. And we're doing a little sort of 5-session taster course together, which is a group course, where singers can learn the sort of basics that they need to know, bits of performance anxiety, bits of dealing with judgment and criticism, bits of having better self-esteem, knowing what to do if everything goes wrong, those kinds of just sort of basic mindset tools, which is not a one-to-one thing. That is a taster course. And then I have a little cohort, which is a small group of people where we do 10 weeks together in a group, and there is confidentiality within the group. The singers agree to confidentiality with each other, but we practice the exercises together each week, and so they can learn from each other, practice together, and also have that little community. So there's those sort of 3 things going on: the one-to-one, the taster course, and then the deep dive group course. So lots of ways for people to work with me in hypnotherapy as singers.
How many hypnotherapists would there be in the UK? Would you have any idea?
I would say in the region of thousands.
Oh, so why did they come to you?
So singers come to me because I work with singers. There are lots
the only
of people.
hypnotherapist out there who deals with singers and musicians.
Yeah, actually, there aren't many. I would say a handful. There aren't that many, and this was my reason, for doing this, is that I have been looking for this forever. I've been searching for someone to help me like this with mindset for ages. And in the classical world, there's I probably know 1 or 2 people, and that's it. So I wanted to use this stuff. Hypnotherapy is around there there are lots of hypnotherapists. There are lots of people doing fantastic work with loads of other issues, pain issues, and dentistry, all of that stuff, people working with hypnotherapy but I wanted to work purely with musicians and singers and singers' lives, the singer's life. So that sort of makes me in a handful of people who are doing it in the UK.
Well, that means you cornered the market.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome for you.
Yeah.
That's good. I guess his word of mouth too. Say, oh, how did you become so confident? Julie Bale. Who's she? She's a soprano. Oh, okay, yeah. Well, sopranos and tenors, they help each other sing. No, but she's a hypnotherapist. What is that? Have you had that when people walk in your office? I was referred to you.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. It's happening a lot right now because of this course that I'm doing with Audition Oracle. Suddenly people it's really sort of spreading through the classical singing world at the moment. So yeah, and then I have a Facebook group which is called Hypnotherapy for Performance, and so people come and join that. And then they get to see the things that I'm doing. They get to see me doing little demonstrations and lives, that kind of thing, and get lots of tips on there as well. So there's a free place that they can come and find out how and whether it works for them before they do anymore.
Sorry, that was bothering the cat.
No problem.
That's excellent. So, apart from hypnotherapy, you think that the person's coming in your office to talk to you about hypnotherapy, but what if they come in and say, oh, yeah, sorry, I'm not here for any hypnotherapy. I just want to ask you, I want to be a soprano. I want to be a singer. So, what would the best piece of advice you would give them?
If someone asked me,
They want to be a singer too. They saw
yeah,
you perform, and they
uh-huh.
knew that the only way to contact you is through your hypnotherapy, through your the office that you work at. And you,
Yeah, I mean, to be fair with you, they wouldn't get in front of me by with that
oh,
because I have a procedure. They would email me and I would email them back,
oh,
and
okay.
then yeah. So that's what would happen first. Um, I don't book. They wouldn't get an appointment with me unless we were absolutely certain as to what we were going to work on, and they filled in my pre-assessment form and all of that good stuff, so that by the time they are in front of me, we can get straight down to the work and not waste any time. I don't want people coming and sitting in front of me who I can't help. See, I want to know what they're doing. But to answer your question, if someone got in touch with me and said that they wanted to be a singer, my suggestion to them would be to get themselves in front of the very best teachers, learn the best possible technique that they can, and be absolutely certain in themselves, so know what it is that they have, that they want to bring, that they want to do, because it's very easy. Singer's life is not an easy life. There's an awful lot of rejection. There's an awful lot of stuff, ugly stuff goes on behind the scenes. There's an awful lot of anxiety and stress involved. And if they're going to continue to enjoy their music, then they need to be prepared for that, as well as have a really fabulous technique. That's so important, because if they're going to be using their voice for a long time, over a long number of years, it needs to be healthy. It needs to be in the best condition that it can be. And they need to have good ears listening to them and have good advice from people who know what they're doing and have done it before them. So, yeah, that would be my advice.
Tell us about a time when you just wanted to give up.
Yeah, that's what a great question. I love that, because so many singers are not aware that all other singers feel like this at some point. And in fact, all other people, let's be fair, every one of us at some point has gone, what's the point? I'm not going to bother anymore. We've all done it, haven't we? We absolutely have all done it. Can I think of a time in particular when it has happened? I think it happens quite frequently, to be to be honest with you. It's this time of year is not conducive with the we don't have very much light, and everything feels like a struggle, and midwinter is always quite a tricky time for people, isn't it? There have been occasions with singing where perhaps I've gone for an audition feeling completely confident that I was going to get a role, and then not being offered it. Things like that happen to singers. And it's hard to come back from that, because even though we all know that auditions are not personal, it's very difficult not to take it personally. So I have had situations where I've auditioned, where I've auditioned for things, and I've been led to believe that it's just a rubber stamp thing, and then you go, and then you get an email saying, thank you for applying, unfortunately you've not been successful on this occasion. And you think, whoa, do you know how many hours I put in to work to do that? And I get this same line. It could at least have been personalized, though all those kinds of things happen to singers, to all of us. all the time, her. And that's when it's a really good idea to have your self-hypnosis there, because you can use your self-hypnosis, your breathing, going back to the breathing again, to help you to be calm, to transport you to another place. So like with your breathing that we were talking about earlier, what you can do then is you can, everyone I think will have heard of this idea of happy place or safe place. And when you're doing your breathing and you've done your Star Trek scan and you've brought your color of relaxation through your body, you can then focus and imagine that you are in a safe place, a happy place, a place where you feel loved and you belong, a place where you feel great, a place where you're surrounded by love, and just engage all the senses again. So see what you see, hear what you hear, feel what you feel, smells and tastes, that kind of thing. Personally, I have there's a beach in Scotland where I like to be, and I can smell the salt in the waves, and
Wow.
I'm hearing the sand, and I can, and I'm seeing the mountains, and all that kind of thing. And I go there, I'm transported there. I'm rid of this peripheral awareness that we've spoken about. And that's where then I can just let go. I can let go of it, because I think that quite often a thing happens like that, you're let down by something, and it's quite often not the thing that causes the grief to you afterwards, but the dwelling on it, the thinking about again and again and again, and that makes it worse. So by then going into a safe place and transporting yourself for a bit, it can help to ease those symptoms. I'm not saying then suddenly you're fine and everything's back, but you have a way, you've engaged your imagination to take yourself away from the real difficulty for a while. Yeah.
I take it that calming colors of a wall in an office helps them relax. Is that what you have? Calming colors?
Well, yeah, but the difficulty there is that not everybody thinks the same color is calming.
Mm,
What's one man's food is another man's poison. Is that what it is? One man's meat is another man's poison. That's the thing, isn't it? Who knows? And that's why when I do the relaxing breath, I always say breathe in the color of relaxation, whatever that color is to you, because everybody has different ideas on colors.
I can
Yeah,
imagine
I haven't
Batman
got a lot
walking.
in.
I can imagine Batman walking in the office. And you tell him just okay, breathe in, breathe out. The color of relaxation. He goes, "It's black. I'm Batman."
Yeah, and that happens. I have singers who absolutely love black and will breathe in and out black, and it
That
will
is
calm and make them feel great.
that's awesome. Well, thank
Yeah.
you very much. This is very informative. I'm so glad that you came back, and we were so happy that you're here. And so we're going to end the stream, everyone. Julie Bale, you were such an amazing guest, and love to hear all about hypnotherapy. And I've learned a lot. So I'll probably use Jabberwocky more. I'm not just kidding. Jabberwocky in black, everyone. Remember. But no, really appreciate it, Julie. Thank you.
Pleasure.
So,
Thank you.
okay, everyone, we're going to end the stream, and gonna wave goodbye. Make sure that you hit the subscribe button for more content, and everything about Julie will be in the YouTube description down below. Thank you, everyone. Bye, Julie.